Hi folks, welcome to my grow room. For those who don't know me, my name is Ray Nikkel. I'm a professional gardener and an avid home gardener in ornamentals and food production. During this time of pandemic, there seems to be a lot of interest in growing food. So we decided that we want to encourage our neighbors and friends in the Nakusp area, which is part of the West Kootenay, Columbia, to do more food production. So we thought we'd just give some information on what I'm doing in my home garden. And today we're going to be starting out in the grow room, and we'll also go out to the cold frames, and we'll talk about growing stuff from your own seeds and from buying seeds. Why the value of growing your own plants is, what the value of that is. So in this grow room, we have flats here that have just been seeded, and these were seeded on Thursday. Now this is the brassicas, the broccoli, the cauliflower, the Brussels sprouts, the cabbages, and also my tomatoes I started. So this was seeded on Thursday, and the brassicas they move ahead really fast. So you can see the tiny little sprouts in there already, which is one of the wonderful things that gardeners love to see, is just to have the green stuff starting to sprout already.
Now, you just said Thursday, Ray, but I'll just give a bit of context here. So we're talking 3 days.
That's right.
3 days, this happened.
Right. And these flats weren't even under the grow lights because I had my spinach underneath there. And so, but it was warm in here, but underneath the grow lights it's even better because it's got the warmth, the extra warmth from the grow lights. And these covers are wonderful. I really can't say enough about having these covers. It helps keep the moisture in, so you have the heat and the moisture, and it's just ideal circumstances for stuff to sprout and grow.
And how long do you leave those covers on, Ray? I mean, obviously you don't have them over here on the peppers and other plants.
No, as soon as I see a good germination happening through the whole flat, then I take the covers off. So in these flats here, this is all done with Sunshine No. 4 mix, which is over here. So Sunshine No. 4 and just water. And that's all I use for the seedling flats. Oh, I also water them in with fish or seaweed as well.
Now, when you say fish, you don't go into the lake and catch a fish. What are you talking about when you talk about fish?
I'm talking about the concentrated fish fertilizer.
Okay.
Although in my house, I mostly use the seaweed because it doesn't smell so much as the fish fertilizer. Okay. So I really like the concentrated seaweed. And I got Home Building Center to buy me a big jug. So this is my concentrated seaweed. And I just have a little bit poured into here. You can see how nice and dark it is and beautiful. And then that's concentrate.
Okay.
And then I just put that into my watering can. Just a couple of tablespoons in the watering can. And then you got the beautiful seaweed fertilizer.
Great. And you can get this anywhere?
Most hardware nurseries should have that in stock.
Okay.
I got mine from Home Building Center, and I just ordered them, told them to get me a large jug so I don't have too much plastic around, and it's a useful container after.
Great.
So the flat is mostly just the Sunshine No. 4 and water. Now after that, I like to prick my plants out and put them into, so these were just done on Thursday. So they've been pricked out from the flat, and they've gone into 4-inch pots. And I like 4-inch pots because they can really grow well. You'll see when we go outside and look at the spinach plants and lettuce plants, how well they've done in the 4-inch pots.
And you cleverly labeled it, so you know it's parsley. I mean, I know you'd know it's
That's
parsley,
right.
But it's good to label.
And so here's the flats. There's some left over, so I wanted to give them to friends. So that's how they were in the flat. And I just pricked them out from that. That's the parsley. And that's the celery.
And how old would you say these are roughly, Ray? When did you start them in seeds?
I think this was all started on February the 15th when I started the spinach, but I have to check. Now, one really important thing is to keep a ledger, a journal. And so here I have what I do every day, and so I can look back. I know that the spinach and lettuce were started on February the 15th, pricked out on February 25th into 4-inch pots, and today they went out into the cold frame. So it's really good so that next year I can look it up and say, oh yes, I started this on that date. So I had to look back and see. I'm not exactly sure when I started the spinach or when I started the parsley and the celery, but I can look back and let you know on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can see these peppers here. So these were also started on February the 15th and pricked out on the 25th. And you can see how well they've grown. So in this, I take that sunshine number 4. I take about 3 scoops of sunshine number 4. And then I take about 3 half scoops of manure. And then I take some Gaia Green fertilizer and mix that all up. Because he's going to be in these 4-inch pots for a while. So I want to make sure there's some good nutrition in there for the plants. And then also once a week, I feed them with the seaweed fertilizer. So not only do they have the food in the soil, they have the liquid food which they absorb right away.
And it shows.
And it shows.
They're beautiful.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what have you got here, Ray?
Those are eggplants. I put those in the 5-gallon pots on the south side of my house, and they do just fine there. It's hot. It's underneath an overhang, and it's kind of like the lily. They really just love it there, and we get lots of eggplants for myself and to share with friends.
Mm-hmm. It's one of the beautiful things about having a garden, isn't it, Ray? That you can.
That's
and
right.
you're legendary for sharing everything right on up, from
Thank
the
you.
starts to the fruit to everything.
Right. Yep. So we have peppers, eggplant. Oh, jalapeno peppers, eggplants, good big green peppers, and then the celery and the parsley, and then that's just the overflow down there. Mm-hmm. Then here is the. These are all the brassicas and tomatoes. This one's the tomatoes. So I have 4 different varieties. And what I like about your own seed, like seeding your own plants, is that it's hard to get this quality of plants from a greenhouse. You know, you've babied them, you've planted them up in the right time, you've put them into 4-inch pots at the right time, so they're not stunted or in the pots too long. You can just do exactly everything at the right time.
Now, speaking about the right time, everything is customized here to your environment. This location here in beautiful Nakusp, in beautiful British Columbia, in beautiful Canada.
That's right, yeah.
Now, what about timing? What zone? Do you go by zones? How do you figure out when, for someone who doesn't have your experience?
Right. Well, a little bit depends on your space. I lived in Hills from 1981 to 2013 when I moved here. I had 2 big greenhouses there, so I could grow anything I wanted to anytime because I had huge space. But here I have limited space. Now I brought these grow lights because I didn't have a greenhouse here. So I had this small little room, and I bought these good quality lights. There's 4 lights in each ballast. And I bought quality full spectrum lights. Now they produce a little bit of heat, but I like that. This makes this room nice and warm. You can attest to that, Gail.
It is.
It's very toasty.
It's very cozy.
Yeah. So.
And it smells terrific in here with the plants.
Right. Yeah. So I don't have to have a greenhouse. I can grow all my stuff I need in here because I have the great lights and the warmth. And I bought these. These were a little bit expensive. I bought them from Lee Valleys, but there's 3 tiers. And so I can maximize my space. So in this small space, I've got, 6 actually growing areas and double trays in each. So it's really, I can really grow a lot of plant material in here. Mm-hmm. So, but I'm still limited. I only have so much space. So the spinach and lettuce are cold crops. They like it cool. So I start them first. So I had 2 flats of lettuce and 6 flats of spinach. So that consumed a lot of this area here. But by the time that's ready to go outside in the cold frame, then I make room for the next batch of stuff. And the brassicas, they won't go in a cold frame, they'll just go out into the garden. So I start them about the middle of March, and then by the middle of April, all going well with the weather, they can go right out into the garden.
Now, I noticed in the background of our picture here, Ray,
Mm-hmm.
there were all these jars of water.
Right.
What are all those jars of water doing back there?
Well, unfortunately, this room wasn't set up for a grow room. in the grow room, it'd be nice to have a sink and water so you can do cleanup and that, but it didn't have that. So these jars are just my handy water, so when I water, I don't have to run upstairs to get water. And they also lets the chlorine dissipate from there as well too. And it's just warming up nicely.
So the water is at temperature, at room temperature, and the chlorine is gone.
That's right.
It's off gas.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hi folks, Ray again. So I couldn't resist. I bought another set of racks because I do need more area. So this is all the leeks and onions, the red onions, the yellow onions, the shallots. Now you can grow French shallots from seed, and the leeks as well too. So that's all out here. And at the bottom, this is the flat of the spinach. I didn't have everything pricked out, so again, I'm hoping to give this away to somebody. So that's the spinach in the flat before they were pricked out. And this is a flat of Echinopsis, which is the Himalayan blue poppy that I harvested seeds for myself, and they're really hard to find. It's just a wonderful plant. So I threw the seeds in there, and nothing's come up yet, but I'm ever hopeful that they will.
Experimenting always.
That's right. Yes. And if you can get Himalayan blue poppies growing yourself, that's would be wonderful. So these onions and that, what you want to do weekly with them is you want to clip the tops. And I clip them every week, and you can see how fast they grow. So you just grab them and just give them a little. So that helps keep them nice and sturdy. Otherwise they get long and they'd fall over. That keeps them nice and sturdy and helps them thicken up. So once a week you'll go and just give them a little trim like that. And I just tuck that guy back in again. And then once a week I fertilize them as well too with the seaweed. Now the onions will just probably stay in here, and they'll go right out into the garden probably middle April. The leeks, if I have time, I might transplant them into deeper pots. The leeks, you want a nice white stem because that's the most edible part. So you can put them in another pot and get them a little bit deeper. That'd be really good too as well.
Okay.
So now we're going to go outside to the coal frames and we can see what happened there today.
Okay, before we do, I just realized that the fruits of last year's labor with onions are here in the hall. So let's just, can I do a quick shot of the last, it's the middle of March, and there are still beautiful onions. This is the lower floor of Ray's house, so it's a little bit cooler down here.
This is the shallots.
Those lovely French shallots.
Red onions.
Red onions, great.
Now it's been said that if you start your onions from seed, as opposed to the, what would they be?
Sets, I guess.
Sets, yes. That they last longer. And I really find that's true. There's something about them that just starting with them from seed makes them just great and last long and yeah, well into the spring. So hi folks, we're in my friend Teresa's house and you can see her grow light here. So it's just a simple light with a couple of bulbs in there. And she's just started her things in flats here. Now there's tomatoes, Swiss chard, dill, and peppers. So they've just been seeded in here and they're just popping up. So now, are you going to be pricking them off into 4-inch pots?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So you can see what a simple arrangement this is. And yet, you know, she's got great production there. So it doesn't have to be a complicated system. You know, it all works.
In the window, I have a lot of light during the morning, but after it gets dark, I leave my light on for the 18 hours of light.
Ah, right. Good idea.
Otherwise, they're tricked. They're
Right.
manipulated. So.
Right. Good. So now we're out at the coal frames. So my coal frames are very cheaply done. They're just 2x10 boxes that I put on top of my raised beds. And then this was some glass that some friends had around their patio and they didn't want anymore, so I scooped that up. So it's just free glass, 2x10 boxes. So I put them on top of here to grow my spinach in and lettuce in. Then after it gets warm enough, I don't need them, then I move the boxes somewhere else and put something else underneath them. So I like that it's movable that way and it's not too fixed. Now behind Gail, there are some boxes that stay in place. And these are for my peppers and basil and celery and that kind of stuff that's tender and I want to get it out earlier. So you can go to, say, a place like Nakusp BC and talk to them and see if they have some old windows that they're recycling. You can do it very cheaply and get yourself nice frames. So what you want now is the daytime temperature is good, but the nighttime temperature is cold. So we want to moderate that nighttime temperature. So that's what the important part of the cold frame is. You can see over here. Now, when I wanted to plant these, I dug the snow away, but some years I just put wood ashes down, and the darkness of the wood ashes eats the snow up. But you can see over here, we still have snow, and the ground is frozen hard. But here, I got the snow off, put the boxes there, put the glass on top, and it's just beautiful soil now, and just a perfect growing area. So you can see the difference that the cold frames make to your growing. So lettuce and spinach are all cold season plants. They like it cold. Cool, I should say. And so you want to get them out early. And so this is great. And you can see how well they did in the 4-inch pots. They're just a wonderful specimen plant. And again, it's really hard to buy plants of that quality from a nursery because they don't have time to baby plants like that. Only you can do stuff like that. I also remember the first year I was here, 2013, I had one set of lights. So I put a table in front of my dining room window because there was a lot of sunshine came in the south window, and I grew my plants in front of that too as well. They weren't maybe as good a quality because the trees in the park across the way gave me a little bit of shade, but it also it worked, you know. So I did production that way. So however you can, try to start your plants early inside, so that middle of March you can put them outside in your cold frames. Barring that, just start them outside in April. And if you can, try to space the seeds a little bit further apart. Plants grow a little bit better if they have a bit of room to grow rather than just doing a whole row of tiny little plants. It's nicer to have a few larger plants for production. Now I also grow a lot more. I have just this one area of lettuce. I grow a lot more spinach than I do of lettuce because spinach is a harvestable crop. So once I can pick the leaves, like the lettuce and the spinach, as they're growing for nice fresh greens. But at the end, when the plants are this big and the leaves are huge, and before they go to seed, I harvest all the spinach, blanch it, put it in the freezer, and then you have enough spinach for Spinach pita or lasagna for the wintertime. So it's a nice harvestable crop, as opposed to the lettuce, which you just kind of eat fresh. So I have a couple plants over here. You can see this has all been planted this morning. But I have a couple plants over here that will show you how I planted. Plants in the 4-inch pots, and we just go like that, tip them over. Now you can see there the roots are just kind of coming out, so that's nice if you have the root ball and the whole plant there. And then you just make a space here in this beautiful soil, pop them in, and then just tuck them in like that. Do one more. And then I brought in some seaweed, so you can see those nice roots there.
Beautiful.
And that's one thing about having the sunshine number 4 is that it's quite light, so it's easy for the plants to get their roots to there. Whereas if you have just solid potting soil, sometimes it's harder for the little plants to get going. Like now they're growing well, they're healthy, they're strong. They can go out into this heavier soil and do just fine. They'll love it now. But for the first little while, you want to have a little bit of a lighter mix in order for them to get going better. So then I have some seaweed that I brought from inside that's in warm water, and I just give them a shot. And then the important part after this is the water, or in the morning, like sometimes I'm here by myself, so I have to decide in the morning. Usually, no matter what, I open them up. I remember one year I had my peppers in there, it was snowing, I was going out pruning, so I thought, oh, I'm just going to leave it shut because it's so cold. It got hot in the afternoon, I was out in Burton, I couldn't get home. When I got home, the peppers were fried. So I hope that doesn't happen in our demonstrations here, that everything goes well and you see this great production. But if it happens, then you realize that things do happen and sometimes you lose a crop. But that's just the way it is. And I mean, mind you, I picked the leaves off and they put new leaves out and they recovered. They were set back a little bit, but things do happen. Not so much for the spinach. The spinach is pretty full crop. So I just open them up in the mornings and then hope for the best through the day. Now, while we're out here as well, too, this is a new addition to my yard. I just bought this greenhouse, and some of my friends Mark and John are putting it up for me. And I realize the nurseries are getting harder and harder to get good quality, interesting plants. There seem to be going to the run-of-the-mill plants. So there's a couple of wholesalers in the Fraser Valley, Dutch parentage, and they have really interesting perennials that you can get bare root. And so I decided that I'm going to put up a little greenhouse and I'm going to start growing my own interesting stuff for my landscape business. And then just the usual Rudbeckias and Echinacea I can just get from the wholesalers or from the retailers. So that's a new addition. I'm quite excited about it. So it's going to be nice to have more space. Like I say, I was spoiled in hills with the 30 by 60 greenhouses, which was very handy. So thanks a lot, folks. So now you can see if you don't have a cold frame, if you don't have a greenhouse, just try to have really good soil, buy some spinach and lettuce seeds and plant them out early, space them apart a little bit, and maybe once a week for the first little while they're growing, give them some liquid food. The liquid food is great. It just gives them a good boost, and because what you want is you want to have results. And if we have good results, then it's going to encourage you to do more. So thanks a lot, folks, and we'll hopefully, if there's interest in this, we'll carry on and do some more as the season progresses. Thank you.